So let me show you what's new in SharePoint 2013 search. First of all, we do have only one search core. This is very important because in 2010 we had the out-of-the-box SharePoint search, and we also had Fast Search for SharePoint. That was a different product. You had to install it separately, you had to configure it separately, and of course you had to integrate it with SharePoint 2010 in order to be able to use it. So it was a kind of, I wouldn't say it was nightmare, but it was a really complex process to install Fast Search for SharePoint in the proper way. And still we had two search engines, including Fast Search and SharePoint Search, that had to work together. In SharePoint 2013, this integration process has been finished. So the Fast Search Engine and the SharePoint Search Engine are finally fully integrated. So as soon as you install SharePoint 2013, you will get one search engine, and this is the only search engine in SharePoint 2013, and this is the integrated SharePoint and Fast Search Engine. So you have to know about it. It's much easier, the initial configuration of it. So what we can see on this picture. First of all, we do have the content source, the content sources. We have about the same set of content sources in SharePoint 2013, so we can crawl, of course, SharePoint content, we can crawl file shares, we can crawl Exchange public folders, etc., etc., and through BCS we can crawl custom content sources too. The first component that is interacting with those content sources is the crawler. The crawler is the component, I'm going to explain this in much more details, but the crawler is the component that goes to the content source, enumerate the items that have to get crawled, and collect them and pass to the content processing component. The content processing component is the one who processes the content items, extracts the metadata, work on the linguistics, etc., etc. And finally, those items will get indexed. From the other side, we have the front end. And this front end can be any kind of client application. It can be a search center, it can be any search web part, it can be your application that's using the search APIs, etc., etc. So we do have a client application that sends some queries to the query processing component. This query will get processed. I will explain it later. And of course, it gets the results from the indexing component. So the results are getting back to the query processing component, and the query processing component will provide those results to the client application. Besides this crawling, indexing, and querying process, we also have a lot of analytics. So in SharePoint 2010, a lot of information gets stored from the content and from the queries, from the users who run those queries, and all those information goes to the databases, the different analytics databases, and based on them, a lot of reports and analytics can be provided. Let me talk about the next new concept in SharePoint 2013, and this new concept is the continuous scroll. Continuous scroll is very important because before that, in the earlier versions of SharePoint, we had the full crawl and the incremental crawl only. And this was fine, but in some cases it was not enough. So we do have this new concept of continuous scroll for SharePoint content sources, and this means that the content processing is a kind of continuous and much faster, much more dynamic, and can run at the very same time as full and incremental crawl. And this is very important, and this is one of the most important things about continuous scroll, because if you do have a huge environment where a crawl takes weeks, sometimes it takes even months. And if you do a full crawl, besides this full crawl, you can run these continuous crawls, so you can pick up the changes in a dynamic and agile way, and it might be very important in your environment. But the most important limitation, once again, it's available for SharePoint content sources only. I will talk about continuous scroll a bit later. The next big improvement is that you can delegate some search administration tasks to your site collection or site administrators. That means that besides we still do have the capability to do the search administration and central administration, you can say, all right, dear site collection administrators, you can work with the search schema from now. So you can create your own managed properties, etc., and you can give them the power of taking the control and ownership their own search environments. And with this, you can give them the power. For example, the marketing can have different search solutions than the IT without involving or with a minimal involvement of the global search administrators. And of course, we do have a lot of user interface enhancements. And I will explain those enhancements in much more details, but one of them is this hover panel that provides a lot of additional information, a preview of the document, etc. And also we have a new concept for displaying the results and the refinement panel with display templates, and I will explain them in the UI topic. So let me talk about the content processing in more details now. The first step of content processing is the crawling. So first of all, the crawler starts this process and he goes to the content source asking for the list of items that have to get crawled. In case of full crawl, this is the full list of the items, a list of all the items. In case of incremental crawl, this is a list of the items that have been changed since the last crawl. So, for example, if I am the crawler and I would like to get the information about you, the attendees of this class, I would go to SIF asking the list of your names first. And SIF, as the host of the content source, as the host of this training, will send me first the list of your names or the list of your IDs. So this is the second step when the content source gives back this list to the crawler. And the third step is when the crawler goes through on this list, enumerates the items on this list, and crawls them one by one. So once I get the list of your names from SIF, I go through this list and I will ask SIF, hey, what's the email address, what's the job role of this and that user one by one if I do a full crawl. And of course, this is a loop. This is a process that has to run until the last item on this list. Just remember this picture because we will use this later. So once again, the crawler first gets the list of the items from the content source, and then based on this list, it goes back to the content source asking for each item one by one. Of course, it does this on multiple threads, but still one thread crawls one item at the same time. The next step is the content capture. This happens with each item during the content processing. So there are three types of changes that can happen, and it's important during the incremental crawl because during the full crawl, each item will be crawled, obviously. So what could change? First, something can be deleted. That means someone deleted an item from the content source, and of course, after the next crawl, this item should not be displayed on the results. So when something gets deleted, we have to remove it from the index, or at least we have to flag it with a deleted tag. The second thing that can change is the permission settings of the items. I can remove some users from the security list of this item, or I can add someone. So if I add someone, this person has to be able to see this item on the result set after the next crawl. If I remove someone, this person should be not able to see that result in the result set afterwards. So this is one more type of change that can happen with the items. And the next thing, of course, is when some metadata or the body or the content itself gets changed. So this is when you edit the properties of the document, when you edit the document itself. So this is a real content change, and of course the content processor picks up those kind of changes. And as you can see, processing those changes contains a lot of steps. For example, it extracts the crawled properties, creates the managed properties, gets the security description, does some language detection. It's very important. I will show you some examples how it works with different languages in the same environment. And it does a lot of linguistic steps, extract the metadata, and finally does some analytics, and then everything goes to the index. So this is how the content processing works.
Thanks for watching this video. Why not check out some more great how-to videos, or subscribe to our YouTube channel for new videos as they're released.